All right, howdy, Ags. Try a little bumper music, adding in a frill or two along the way. So, welcome again. It turns out we still actually have a couple minutes left this week. So, I'm just going to talk for about 7 minutes or so and introduce the notion of mechanotransduction. And you're wondering at this point, what the heck is that? Why is it important? How does it help me? Believe it or not, this thing is just about everything. It's one of the most exciting areas of research in biomechanics today. In fact, I would argue it's the most exciting. And here's the reason why. Because mechanotransduction is the ability of cells like tendons, ligaments, cartilage, muscle cells, bones to detect mechanical stress, and especially changes in mechanical stress, and then act on them to be able to produce more or less critical proteins like collagen, for example, in bone or tendon, or myosin and actin in skeletal muscle. So that's what makes it really exciting. A transducer is something that actually can turn one type of energy into another. And so mechanotransduction, the whole idea is that we're going to turn mechanical stimuli, that type of signaling, into chemical signaling. In other words, building real proteins that connective tissues, muscles, and frankly, the heart, arteries, arterioles, other tissues in the body can use. So in order to move around, we need tendons, ligaments, cartilage, muscles, even the heart, to be able to detect and act on changes in mechanical stress so they can stay healthy and strong and be able to deal with the environment. So that's a really exciting aspect of this. And we're going to get right into it. So mechanotransduction, again, is the ability of a cell to detect, especially a change in mechanical stress and strain, respond to it by basically turning that signal into the ability of the nuclei, DNA, to be able to send that signal through RNA to the ribosomes and produce more or less protein, whatever we need. If mechanical stress is going up, we need more collagen, we need more myosin and actin if it's skeletal muscle. If mechanical stress is going down with space flight or casting, sedentary lifestyle, or if someone's sick, then we're going to start breaking down connective tissues and muscles into amino acids, which actually become a very important source for people who are sick or injured. So the cells are responding to the notion that either we need to increase our strength due to the fact that we're seeing more mechanical stress and strain, or what we need to be able to do is actually break down the tissue so we can use it. And you can use those amino acids to battle disease, to repair tissue. In addition, it can be used as a source of glucose, converting it in the liver by gluconeogenesis, and that helps to feed the brain. Remember, the brain can only exist on glucose, ketone bodies, and lactate. Can't forget lactate. Okay, so here we go. Connective tissues and skeletal muscles. How do they detect mechanical stress and strain? So let's focus right now specifically on connective tissues because they're unique. Only about 5% or less of the mass of connective tissues, bones, tendons, and ligaments, is actually made up of cells. Most of the stuff isn't cells. It's the extracellular matrix. So that means that you've got a mixture of proteins like collagen, laminin, vinculin, fibronectin, etc. Some of these are structural proteins. Some of these detect mechanical stress and strain. Collagen, for example, is a strong structural protein that holds things together. In the case of bones, we also have minerals, calcium salts, calcium phosphate, calcium carbonate, which are giving the bone stiffness, strength, everything it needs to be able to function well. And so the health of these tissues is determined by how much production of these critical proteins and how they're put together by the cells. that's going to determine their strength, stiffness, toughness, their ductility, etc. Everything that makes that tissue healthy and functional. So the extracellular matrix is made up of structural proteins and also proteins that can detect mechanical stress and strain. We also have some key proteins, including integrins, that can attach the outside of the cell with the inside of the cell. And then we have a cytoskeletal network that helps to give the cell shape. It helps to transfer forces in and out of the cell. It also can help in detection of mechanical stress and strain. So with mechanotransduction, we have mechanosensors. We also have proteins that are structural, that hold things together. We also have proteins that help to connect things together. It's really important that the cell be able to detect what's going on in the outside world, whether it's changes in mechanical stress, the hormonal environment, chemical environment, oxygen. It needs information. That's what they like to get. They're on their cell phones constantly. They want to know what's going on. They're on the internet, their version of Snapchat. They want to know what's out there. In fact, if a cell gets cut off from the outside world, it undergoes something called anoikis, which means homelessness, and it'll usually commit cell suicide by a process called apoptosis. So we don't want that happening to our connective tissue cells. When cells are making decisions, and that's really what mechanotransduction is about, putting a lot of elements, information together to make a decision on whether we should produce more or less protein. The body is really careful about that because it costs money, and that money, that currency is ATP. ATP is the body's currency. So ATP requires food, right, to get energy. So it's not cheap. It's kind of expensive, especially for our ancestors. So we want to be extremely careful about that. Also, there are a number of diseases, especially one, the big C, unfortunately, cancer, that can happen when we have uncontrolled growth. And what we're going to mean by growth here is not your long bones like the femur and tibia getting elongating and getting longer as you grow up till you're about 16 or 18 or so years of age when the growth plate ends up fusing. We're talking about the ability to increase mass in a bone, in a tendon, or a ligament or cartilage. And that process can go on for really all of your life, potentially. But in order to do that, this is like, I don't know if you've seen these, this is like, these would be electronic today, but a lockbox where you have actually a series of keys. This is in a bank. And in the safety deposit box, you could keep, stuff like your social security card. You could keep your birth certificate. You can keep jewelry or whatever happens to be precious. So the lockbox tends to be really, really important. In order to open it, you need more than one key. You need multiple keys. And so to stimulate increases in mass of skeletal muscle, tendons, ligaments, cartilage, you need all of these things coming together. You need androgens, and I'm going to add in growth hormone is important, as well as insulin. So these are pro-anabolic hormones, if you will. You need some mechanical stress, not too much, not too little. You need it just right in the Goldilocks zone. A little bit of micro damage actually stimulates the remodeling process. Remodeling means we're turning over proteins. So tendons, ligaments, cartilage, bones, muscles are not static at all. You need the right amount of nutrition. You need amino acids. You need carbohydrates in order to spur growth. That might happen, let's say, with exercise training, like with resistor training. So connective tissues and muscles will actually grow stronger. You need a process called angiogenesis. That's the production of new, that's the genesis part. Angio means blood vessels. You need to be able to feed the tissue. So even with resistive training, there's a period of angiogenesis that lasts a couple of weeks. So, here's the scary picture. And we'll look at this in one more and then we'll stop. So this scary picture, you hopefully won't be too afraid at the end, tells us about the extracellular environment that's out here and how we're going to take that information, feed it into the cell, And eventually we're going to get down to the nucleus and the DNA. And that's what decision making is all about for a cell. As you know, every single cell in the body has the same DNA. So how does the tissue know what to do? Well, it's this information that's coming down to the nucleus that's very specific to the type of cell, a fibroblast for a tendon or a ligament, or an osteoblast for a bone, or a myocyte for skeletal muscle, or a satellite cell, or a chondrocyte. So it's really important that we get this information to the nucleus, to the DNA, to the transcript. That's the blueprint in which we're going to decide what to do. So this information is going to come down into the cell. So we have loads that are on the extracellular matrix. We have a lighting issue. Here we go. What fun. There we go. Okay. I think it's okay working now. So we have loads that are on the extracellular matrix and tendons, ligaments, cartilage. Some of those loads are going to be basically on the extracellular matrix. We've got angiogenesis going on, androgens, growth hormone, insulin. That's detected by the extracellular matrix and the cytoskeleton. That information then goes through second messengers, nitric oxide, calcium. We're going to talk about growth factors, including insulin-like growth factor. That gets fed again down to the DNA level, where we can get reinforcements if we need to, like if someone's doing resistor training, or if there's been a fracture or damage and we need to repair. So there can be some cell division in many of these cells, except in skeletal muscle, at least for the myocytes. Differentiation into adult cells from stem cells, that becomes important in terms of regulating protein production. So last slide of the week. I really mean it this time. And this is about remodeling. Like the name suggests, this is a process where we tear out the old stuff, and that usually comes first. And then we deposit the new, sparkly, shiny, robust, strong, stiff, really good material that helps to keep bones, tendons, ligaments, cartilage, and muscles healthy. So the purpose of remodeling is to basically renew. And with exercise and with a little bit of micro damage, you actually speed it up. If there's macro damage, like a bone fracture or partial tear of a ligament, then we really get it cranked up. So remodeling is a process of renewal. It's constantly going on. It got its name from the type of process that goes on in bones, because we have specific cells in bones, osteoblasts, osteoclasts, osteocytes, that have very specific roles. Okay, Ags, that is it for the week as far as lectures are concerned. We're going to pick up from here next week, focusing on mechanotransduction, which is really exciting because what we learn about mechanotransduction are the building blocks for the new medicines that are going to be coming out in the next 20, 30, 40 years to treat things like osteoporosis, to treat sprains, to treat tendons and ligaments after surgery, to replace cartilage, to maintain the health of our joints, to heal fractures faster. So we got an exciting time coming up as soon as we get over this virus thing. It's going to be really, really exciting. Okay, so we're going to stop right here. We will see you again next week. Have a great weekend in terms of watching these videos. But remember, on Friday, we are going to have a quiz. I'll remind you by email, and we'll probably try to have a little review session after that. So I'm still working that out. This is all still a work in progress, so thanks for hanging in there, and we will see you soon. Bye.